I'm delighted to say we have the Wexford football manager Paul Galvin with us in studio this morning. Paul, how are you doing?
I'm good, guys.
Happy New Year to you. How are you settling into the rhythms of inter-county football management?
Yeah, I'm settling in. It's been interesting, a few weeks and months, but like enjoyable, challenging, very, what would I say, very dynamic. Loads of stuff happening day to day, you know, that you just need to be really switched on every day, really. There's no downtime with it, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because I was probably for the last 18 months or 2 years very switched on to football and plugged into football anyway. So I think I needed something to get stuck into. This
is the outlet for the thoughts that you had at that stage. Is it rewarding? Are you hoping for it to become a thing that gives you personal satisfaction? Like what's that?
Yeah, I am. I think I really can't wait for the action to begin, we'll say, of league action and championship action in the summer. I'm really looking forward to the summer. I mean, the big kind of focus and kind of, I think, ambition in Wexford has been and is still around league football and promotion in league football, which is definitely a part of the plan going forward. But for some reason, I'm really excited for the summer to see what we can do in the summertime. The league action will be very intense and interesting, and will be a great marker for kind of our progress in terms of what we've been doing and the ideas we've been trying to share over the last few weeks. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how we can improve players and teams.
The ideas, how do you communicate those ideas? How much of it is in a meeting room with a discussion and how much of it is actually on a pitch? What's the balance?
Yeah, that's the big thing for me, really. It's like, you know, at the start of it, I had to ask myself, why was I being drawn back into the game? You know, you have to be careful, particularly in a management position. I think you have to be careful that it's not ego that's pushing you. And, you know, I had to ask myself, I asked myself one question: is it ideas that's pushing you, or is it ego that's pushing you? And I was clear that it was ideas. So we share ideas in meeting rooms, on the training field. I think they go side by side. You kind of might introduce something in the meeting room, implement it on the training ground. You need bodies, though. You need bodies. You know, the backroom team are key to that, because there's only so much you can do yourself, really. You might outline it in the meeting room. You might run through it to an extent on the training ground, but really I think you have to hand it over to others then to really drill it, you know, regularly, so that it can become part of a guy's thought process and mindset, and that, you know, it can be embedded, we'll say. But so we share. I actually find Instagram really, really good for idea sharing and for team building. I think Instagram's a really great platform from that point of view. A lot of the best ideas and thinkers are very active on Instagram from the point of view of, it could be anything: gym, nutrition, mindset, coaching, everything and anything.
Who are you looking at?
Well, there's a few. Listen, I mean, there's a few guys I follow. There's a guy, Alistair McCaw, I follow. I like a lot of what he has to say regards leadership and team culture and honesty and communication. He's one guy. Then there are others. It could be anybody. I don't particularly follow anyone specific, but I'll go into Discover. There's a Discover part of Instagram. You can go into Discover and you can, it's a discovery. And I just find that really, stimulating.
That whole part about culture and leadership, is that something that you thought about ever when you were playing? That, like, the academic and the theoretical side of it, as opposed to actually just living it with the team that you were on? Because when you think back to it, you come into a team that already had a tradition and a culture, and it, you know, maybe it's towards the latter stages of your career you begin to think, oh, hang on a second, I've witnessed some of the stuff, I might do some reading about it. Is it only now that you're actually doing the official kind of, the textbook stuff side of it?
Yeah, I think culture wasn't the word we used, really, in my time with Kerry. It was there for us, I think, and it was the tradition of the past teams, and that was it, and that was all we knew, and we didn't think too deeply about it. I think probably the last 5 or 6 or 7 years, it's a name that has become kind of attached to Dublin, It's a name, it's a word, I should say, that has been attached to Dublin. And I think it has been a big, you can see from how they do their business, that they have been very clued into ownership and leadership and responsibility. And probably as a player, we didn't lean on that stuff really. But I think it's now, it's a bigger part of preparation and consideration for teams, I think, these days than maybe it was when I was playing. We could have probably leaned on it a bit more in my time. I probably could have leaned on it a bit more as a player. But yeah, I just think it's more of an interest. I'm looking for interested footballers. You know, I keep saying this to the guys down in Wexford. You know, I want the most interested team out there, because if you have an interest in something, there's no end to how good you can become at it, how much you can learn, how much you'll be willing to improve, how much you'll be willing to work. Interest is a big driver for me, so I'm really following interests in being in the role, and following. I'm trying to promote this idea of interest-based football and interest-based preparation.
Well, you get the impression from listening to the Dubs that they don't all do their best work when they're together. They do most of their best work when they're on their own, and they trust each other to know that they're all doing that best stuff. Obviously, that didn't happen the first day Jim Gavin walked in, or even the first day Pat Gilroy walked in. It certainly didn't happen when Pat Gilroy walked in. He came in the first year and didn't do very much, and kind of sat there and watched and took notes, and then the panel changed remarkably from the first year to the second year. Before Christmas, there were stories about you making some decisions around your panel, which drew a little bit of comment from people. A few senior players left. Is that just a natural process when a manager comes in, that there are going to be people who don't make the start of it? Or what was that process like?
Yeah, it was. I mean, look, some of this thing was out of my hands. Like, you know, the two players departed of their own accord that were, what do you call, on the fringes of things. Maybe they left and they created probably a bit of noise. Like, I mean, I made a few decisions on two players that had been there for a while, that I respected, that I had honest conversations with. Really, I never closed the door as such on those players. Like, it's not part of my brief, it's not part of my role to close doors on anybody down in Wexford. I think it is part of my brief to open doors and to, you know, give guys opportunities. And so I made a decision on a couple of players. A couple of other players then, they decided to leave, and it created a bit of a ruckus down there that I thought, you know, I cast a bit of a poor reflection on everybody, I thought, which was disappointing for the work we've all been doing. And the guys that are in there so far have been really committed. Two guys left kind of by the back door. I had heard about it before they actually told me about it, you know, which was a disappointment. And it created all this noise that I think, you know, was a pity. It was a pity.
Do you think there's noise inevitable about stuff around the Wexford footballers, given you have a profile as a former footballer of the year and a Kerry footballer? And this happens when managers go to counties, that every decision you make won't be the same, won't be treated the same as whatever happens in Carlow or whatever happens in Antrim at the moment, for example.
I suppose I was surprised, actually. I have been a little surprised. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but I have been a little bit surprised at the instant kind of attention of the reporting on it was. I thought the reporting of it was disappointing from the point of view of there was a group there doing lots of good work and lots of guys really keen to get into the squad, really almost daily and weekly. There's guys putting their hands up from various clubs saying, or their manager saying, will you have a look? And guys really wanting to come in, and then it becomes about two guys who didn't want to be there and whose attitudes were told me as much anyway. But
this is going to happen though, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Look, that's the way of it, and
especially
you have to adapt to it.
Like,
and
there's no football on.
Yeah. So, but I will say, like, again, it's not my kind of plan to close doors and that kind of thing. It's not. But the thing needed a shake-up, I felt. I did think, I looked at it, listen, I've looked at years of footage. You see, people probably think I came down and made rash decisions. Like, I really didn't. I based my decisions on years of games, years of championship games, years of National League, county championship and the training I was seeing in front of my eyes, you know. So what can you do? You get on with it. These things happen, I guess, and you just need to toughen and time will tell. Time will tell, I guess.
Did you learn something as a coach and as a manager at that moment, having to deal with two players who didn't want to be in the squad?
I did, yeah. Your gut, my eyes, my ears and my gut really are what I've got to go on. Lots of video as well. And probably my gut was telling me about one or two of the guys who left, and and I didn't follow my gut on that. I left. I waited, and eventually the boys kind of pushed the button, and that was that. And they made it difficult for everybody. Like I say, I didn't close doors as such, but the boys' actions and all the noise around it probably closed doors. You know, in a manner that it would be difficult now to open those doors again.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But anyway, that's that. I learn plenty, and I'm learning all the time, and I've a lot to learn. I'm not afraid of it though.
I do think that two players leaving a Division 4 team in December isn't a story, except that you're involved. And that's the other side of this, is that you are going to come under a lot of scrutiny. So people are going to be interested in what your style of play is, what your philosophy is, how you want the game to be played. What's the answer to that question? Can you tell us, like, what does what is the hallmark of a Paul Galvin team?
Yeah, sure. Look, I mean, I think energy around the field is a big thing for me. I guess you kind of can only transfer what you feel within you from a physical energy and a personal energy point of view. I'm kind of led by energy, physical and personal, and I would hope to have a really energetic team. You know, like we played a few O'Byrne Cup games. We played Westmeath with kind of a scratch enough team. They did really well. We found a couple of players in the mix out of the club scene. But my big thing was be good to watch and be exciting to watch, and I thought they were. Laois games similarly, we played maybe half or 7 or 8 of the established guys with a mixture of 20s and club guys, and they were really good to watch as well. And Offaly then wasn't a good watch, and that kind of disappointed me, because I'd like Wexford people to have a really good team to watch, high octane, energetic, be able to handle the ball well, and you'd like to try and drive, you know, some ideas if you can, but it's not easy. It's not easy. The contact time isn't great, to be honest. The contact time isn't great with all the other priorities and the scheduling of things, and then you get a flu bug, and your contact time it's actually hard to implement ideas, which I think is the biggest frustration for me at the moment. I don't think we're seeding really as well as we could, or we're not transmitting as well as we could probably the stuff we're looking for. So it'll probably be a little... I think when the thing comes together post Sigerson, post Fitzgibbon, post 20s campaign, I think you'll have more contact time and more consistency.
Yeah, it's very difficult for those. It's funny how the situation as it is actually favours the really good teams at the start of the year, because they're the ones who already have built on. They played on last summer, they got to implement new ideas across the course of the summer, and they're coming back off a much higher base. And the teams in the lower divisions actually don't have that opportunity in summer to put good ideas into practice to get to that peak level of fitness that you're then topping up over the winter, as opposed to starting again.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And like the guys, I think the 3rd of June last year, I think 3rd or the 4th of June, the guys went out to Derry in a qualifier game, you know, and probably if you were going later into the year, yeah, the turnover or the rollover would be maybe a little bit easier in terms of staying closer to that level you were at of intercounty. You know, me as a player, I used to go up and down kind of like off season. I could get fit quickly, and I could kind of get unfit quite quickly, you know.
Even just getting your eye in, understanding what it is, the partnership of the person behind you, when to make the run, what that look means, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. There probably was a big gap between going out of the championship and starting up again, and it's all new. Look, the group is quite new down there, so time is valuable, and session time, contact time is valuable. Little bit stretched at the moment for kind of contact with them and that kind of consistency, but I think that'll come, and I think you know everyone's in the same boat.
You mentioned being really excited for the summer, Paul. What is it about the summer that excites you most? Is it the possibility of taking a big scalp? Is it the possibility of winning silverware in the Tier 2 competition? Because I'm sure that's something that's been going on in your head, thinking about that competition.
Yeah. Funny enough, I was kind of the qualifier route was before I had taken the job by the time the qualifier route went by the wayside. And I was disappointed with that. I thought there might have been opportunities. Say you go into Leinster and you get as far as you can. I felt there might have been opportunities in the system as it existed, as it stood. So now it was a new competition, and whilst I don't like the language, I don't like the way it was communicated, I don't like the language around this tier 2, and I think it's a little too categorical, like, you know, you're now second rate. I don't love that. I think it's
There's no aspiration behind it, is there, really?
There isn't, which is, I think, for players, I think it should be a bit more aspirational and a bit more constructive in terms of how it's communicated and what it's called, what you're competing for. Yeah, just the summer, I think I always loved July and August as a player. I was never mad about May and June, because probably we were 8, 10, maybe 12 weeks at times of training. But I never played my best football in June. I loved July and August, so if we can get that late into the summer, I think it'll be exciting, but it'll probably be... I think we need to see structures anyway and fixtures of we need probably clarity on the season regards what happens post the Leinster Championship unless you win it.
Tell us a little bit about the shape of the game at the moment and how you think it's evolving. Obviously, people will have read your column over the last couple of years and know that this is something that you think about a good bit. But we've had a couple of different strands of how the 15 players on a pitch organise themselves. Even if you think back to how Dublin responded when they had 14 and Cluxton comes out to push up on Kerry in the drawn game. Like, people are thinking differently about how the shape and what players are supposed to do and what the roles.
Yeah, I like to see that. I liked to see Stephen pushing out like that, and I have felt probably keepers had a bit more to offer from the playing point of view. Easy to say probably when you've never stood in goal. Easy to say they've enough to be doing, but it was great to see that. I saw Rory Began last year in the league come out, and up in Mayo and McHale Park, I saw Rory Began come out for a Mayo kick out and come right up beyond the 45 to take a pocket away from Rob Henley, and he took the space away. Kick out goes this way and he goes back into goal. You know, it's just, I love to see that stuff. It takes a bit of courage to do that, you know, and.
Some Ware Furnace do that as well, of course, we've seen.
Pardon?
With the bibs, some of the lads with the bibs coming on. Jason Sherlock's very good at it, closing out a lot of space.
Yeah, that's another tactic that's been going for a while, yeah. I don't know, I just like to see our guys. I'd like to see our guys very comfortable with the ball, you know, confident with the ball. I feel like footballers aren't the most confident with the ball anymore. That the game has become more about kind of how good you might be without it.
How many sprints you can do.
All that, and it's important obviously, but I'd like to see our guys just be comfortable, not be afraid of the ball, you know.
Do you see that at all levels of football? Like, it's not just a Division 4 thing, that actually the Division 1 teams, the Division 2 teams who are trying to catch Dublin and Kerry, their players aren't able to kick the ball the way they should be because too much time is being spent on the wrong things?
Probably, like, I suppose the big thing is that positional play for me has been the big thing for the last number of years. Like, I think it's just gone out the window. I think I probably wouldn't be effective. I don't know how effective I would be in the game as it's played at the moment. It's just, yeah, it's probably 13, 14 back, and you're playing this defensive structure and breaking out. And I just think the lack of positions is a bit disconcerting at times. I was going down to watch games in Wexford, you know, over the summer, and you know, you'd spot somebody, and you know, you'd go to look for him again a few minutes later, and you know, I mean, you never know where to find him. You know, he's wearing whatever number. You look where that number might play, and he's nowhere near it. And honestly, you'd have to give maybe, you know, you might give a minute or more going, where's that guy after going? And he could be anywhere. So the positional stuff probably has been the big thing for me. That it just kind of went out the window.
Is there a possibility of counteracting that and going against that, and that a zonal team that kind of doesn't stick to positions, but at least has an awareness that this is my zone, I'm going to work in it?
Yeah, I think bar the keeper, really. I like, my experience of watching football in the summer was at bar the keeper. you never really knew where to find anybody. Maybe an inside back and inside forward, but after that it was up in the air. So I suppose it's something you'd look at. It's not an easy thing to kind of take on, because, we'll say in Division 4, I think that's the way the game is played for the most part from what I've seen. I saw a bit last year, and I think you have to cut your cloth. You have to cut your cloth to an extent and find a little way maybe that you can do something new or do something a little bit different to improve upon it maybe.
Yeah. What about the advanced mark? What difference do you think that's going to have in the game?
I personally, I don't like it because it kind of takes away the take on. You know, you'd like to see. You love to see forwards taking on backs, and I wouldn't like to think that it would take away from a forward's mindset that he wouldn't actually go for a fella if he has him 1-on-1, that he wouldn't go for him. That he might take an option where, okay, he'll mark it. Look at it. I think it's a tactic that can be used. It may become a tactic that you look to late in games where you need to maybe slow a game or keep possession or control a game better. You know, it was a funny rule. I get why it was introduced. You play forward a little bit more, I think, is the thinking, and it'll probably promote a bit of that. So we'll see.
When you're talking about modern Gaelic football, it really sounds like it's kind of hard to put your finger on where exactly a game might go, patterns of play or things like that. So how important is that as a coach to sort of empower the player to think for themselves? It's obviously something that the Dubs have spoken about quite a bit, the way that they know what to do in certain situations, because it's very unpredictable, especially with positions.
Yeah, I guess like the organisation aspect is really the important thing there, that I think guys are able to organise themselves on the field, because it can get a little bit chaotic and you might find yourself in a really intense defensive phase of play, and that has to be some way organised. And then if, say, you were to win possession, you need to probably have an idea of what next.
Yeah.
So like
can't just kick it clear. It's going to come straight back.
Yeah. And so the organisation, you would hope, you'd like to think that players on field are able to take control of matters. Obviously on the training ground you have to try and allow them, you know, or create situations where they're forced to think and organise and run things themselves, you know.
Just kind of a final thought I had was, outside of your Instagram influences that you mentioned, because I've never actually heard that from a modern coach before, what else are you reading? What else are you looking at? Is there other sports, other coaches you're looking at that will inform the coach and the manager that you become?
I don't know. I really am just following my trying to follow the things I'd seen in the game really for the last number of years. You know, like I wrote for 4 years and I really enjoyed it. And in writing, then you see kind of bits and pieces that you think that could change and this could change and you could do. So I'm really following those things that I kind of, you know, the ideas I had at the start. I'm trying to pursue them as best I can. It's not easy to pursue them though, because you can get kind of pulled away in other directions and that. So that's kind of the main driver. Only reason I really got into it was because I felt, okay, X, Y, and Z is happening. Maybe you could do a little bit more of A, B, and C, and that kind of thing. In general, like, no, I'm just trying to kind of grow myself. Really, I was at a stage in the summer where I felt the need to I wanted to experience the interview process. So personally, I want to grow and improve myself as a person, as a manager, even though I don't really consider myself a manager as such. But
why not?
I know. I mean, I said this and I wrote this in the Times in the summertime, and I saw a headline some few weeks later that really made me cringe. I had said I had written that I didn't consider myself a GAA manager in the conventional sense.
Okay. But
the headline was, I am not a conventional GAA manager, which just sounded, I cringed, you know. But what I actually meant was, it's hard for me to consider myself a manager in the same context as some of the guys that are managing in Leinster that have All-Irelands and CVs and blah, blah, blah. You know, I don't consider myself, that's what I meant when I said I didn't consider myself a manager in that sense. So
yet, in some ways.
Well, you are, you know.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah,
You're managing
you
people.
are, exactly.
And, yeah.
But
yeah.
are you more on the coaching side? Do you think of yourself more as a coach? 'Cause
I would probably. I kind of, this year, I was kind of ready to get into the game. It would have been on the coaching side in a backroom situation. I probably didn't feel a management role straight up was the thing I wanted to do. But it came about. Kieran Deely had been involved with London. I was involved with Kieran, and Kieran was in the running for the Wexford position. He had asked me maybe if he got involved, would I get involved, and he wasn't in a position. So I became, an interview process was really interesting to me because I wanted to see how I performed, and that was the driver. And then the idea is over the last number of years, see if you can do it. Because you get annoyed, you know, if you have stuff in your head, it's like anything else, you get them out, see if they're any good. If they're no good, I won't be delaying. As
a player, were you the type of, did you have the relationship with the management that you want your current players to have? Or like would you have brought that energy and curiosity, and would you have expressed yourself as a 22 and 23-year-old? Or would you be able to now as a manager of you at 22 or 23 and go back and go, listen, I need to ask you a few questions and tell me what's going on, be my eyes and ears out there?
No. As a player, certainly when I was starting out, no. Very rarely did I get involved, you know, in management stuff. Did I really question? I was a very much tunnel vision type. As you get older, probably you get asked a little bit. You certainly have more conversations as you get older. It was my experience anyway. More conversations. I had a lot of conversations with Jack, some with Eamon, and I was never really one to go knocking on a door now and kind of pull a guy, unless I was maybe asked a question or two. But I certainly didn't look to involve myself with management stuff at all. You'd like to think I like to think players can come and talk to me. I think probably at the minute there's still a little bit of a getting to know you kind of a phase happening, but like I really want guys to be comfortable and enjoy themselves and to learn, you know. If we can learn a bit going forward, I think we'll all be doing well. Are
you taking a bit from all those managers or any of that stuff, or is it just a completely different thing now?
Yeah, I think I have, yeah. I think I definitely have. Like Jack at the start with me was quite prescriptive in terms of the role, and I needed that. It was very good for me. Eamon actually kind of brought Kerry football forward with the way he understood and embraced technology, you know, which was a big learning for probably everybody involved. And Pat and I probably were only a short time together, Pat O'Shea. And Pat was probably Pat had a lot of ideas, you know. He was really, from the coach point of view, influenced by basketball and set plays and that kind of thing. So you would have definitely picked up bits and pieces, you know. So
it's interesting that you mentioned there that one of your important points is that the players hopefully enjoy themselves playing football under you, because that seems to have been lost quite a bit in county football over the last decade or so.
Yeah, you would question why. You would question kind of how can you make it enjoyable, and like what does enjoyment even mean? You know what I mean? How do you actually enjoy the practice of football anymore? Like it's kind of, you actually have to study sessions and study players and understand what brings enjoyment. And you know, I like for the coaches around me to actually add a bit of fun and you know, learning. If we can learn a bit from every session, and there's loads of ways to learn. And I think if you're enjoying yourself, you're kind of almost naturally learning. So, yeah, we'll see. Like, you know, the schedule is heavy at the minute. It's hard to enjoy probably at the moment for fellas because there's so much going on and there's time pressure. I find time pressure is the one that takes enjoyment. Time pressure is the one that can really affect how well you can do things and how much kind of time you can give to the thing.
Well, listen, first game is January 26th against Antrim, and then May the 10th against Wicklow in the Championship.
Yeah.
2 big dates circled in your calendar. I hope you enjoy the rest of it, and best of luck for coming in. Thanks for coming in today.
Appreciate it.